Hello, friends. You're watching The Night Watchman, where every day you'll hear a brand new horror story that will send chills down your spine. But to keep bringing you these terrifying tales, we need your love and support. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's begin the story. Now we're ready. I never thought I'd still flinch at the smell of seasoned beef and fryer oil. But even now, 6 years later, the scent drags me right back to that morning in Cedar Falls. Back then, I was 22, trying to make ends meet while finishing my last semester at Hawkeye Community College. I worked 2 jobs, night shifts stocking shelves at a grocery store, and mornings at a fast food place called Taco Bell, the cheaper knockoff of Taco Bell that sat between a Shell station and a rundown tire shop off Highway 58. It wasn't glamorous. The uniform was a faded purple polo that smelled like grease no matter how many times you washed it. But it paid for my textbooks and half my rent for the tiny one-bedroom I shared with my roommate, Tyler. The funny thing about working fast food is how quickly you stop seeing faces. Just transactions, hands exchanging cups and crumpled bills. But that one morning in July, I saw a face I can never forget. I remember pulling into the parking lot just before 6:30 a.m. The sun hadn't fully climbed up yet, and the asphalt still held a faint shimmer of dew. Inside, my shift lead, Marissa, was already setting up the front counter. She was 26, loud, sarcastic, and too cheerful for mornings. "Morning, sunshine," she said, sliding me a headset. I groaned, tying my apron. "Don't call me sunshine before caffeine." She grinned. "Fine." "Zombie? Better?" I smirked. "Closer." The place was quiet at that hour. We got a few construction guys grabbing breakfast burritos and black coffee, a couple truckers passing through. I actually liked the calm before the lunch rush. It was predictable, cleaning the sauce station, checking the fryers, joking around with Marissa. Around 8, the manager, Rick, came in holding his clipboard like he always did. He was middle-aged, gray around the temples, and the kind of guy who pretended to care, but mostly just counted receipts. "Okay, heads up," he said, flipping through his notes. "We've got a private booking at 10. Some family's doing a kid's birthday thing. They rented the dining area. Corporate approved it. Keep things tidy and..." I interrupted, laughing. "Hold up. A birthday party here? At Taco Bell?" Rick gave me a look. "Yeah, it's weird, but they paid in advance. We just have to make sure everything runs smooth. They're bringing decorations and entertainment." "Entertainment?" Marissa grinned. "Like what? Bean burrito juggling?" He chuckled. "Clown, actually." I laughed harder. "A clown? Here? Who does that?" Rick shrugged. "People do stranger things for their kids. Just keep it professional, all right?" I nodded, still grinning, but a tiny part of me felt uneasy. Something about the idea of a clown in a fast food place just didn't sit right. By 9:30, the dining area looked absurd. Balloons tied to chair backs, red and yellow streamers clashing with the faded purple booths. Marissa was humming while wiping tables. "Think we get cake out of this?" she said. "God, I hope so," I said, stacking napkins. "It's the least we deserve." That's when the door chimed and the chaos walked in. A group of kids, maybe 7 or 8 of them, burst through, squealing and running in every direction. Their parents followed, apologizing, trying to corral them. The noise level spiked instantly. Then he came in, the clown. He was tall, too tall for the low ceiling, and his red wig sat crooked like it had been thrown on in a hurry. The makeup wasn't clean or playful. It was patchy, uneven. The painted grin was smeared, one side sagging as if he tried to fix it with his fingers. "Guess that's our entertainment," Marissa muttered, watching him. I chuckled uneasily. "Yeah, real family-friendly nightmare fuel." He walked past the counter holding 2 kids by their hands, skipping like it was part of his act. When he noticed me watching, he stopped and looked directly at me. That stare, long, unblinking, almost studying me, made my stomach twist. Then he slowly lifted a hand and waved. I awkwardly waved back. "See?" Marissa whispered. "He likes you." "Yeah, well, I don't like him," I said, forcing a laugh. The first half hour went fine. The kids ate tacos and screamed with joy. The parents chatted over coffee, and the clown made balloon animals and bad jokes. Still, I caught him staring. Every so often, while twisting balloons or juggling, he'd glance at me. His head would tilt, slow and unnatural, like his neck didn't work right. When I tried to shake it off, he started dancing, jerky, twitchy movements, like a puppet with broken strings. The room quieted. Even the kids stopped laughing. Marissa leaned close. "Okay, that's officially creepy as hell," I whispered back. "Told you." I'm taking a break before he starts doing cartwheels. "Go ahead." "Don't ditch me," though I nodded and grabbed the cleaning cart, heading toward the restrooms. Inside, the smell of disinfectant was oddly comforting. It meant quiet. I started with the women's room, wiped the counters, restocked toilet paper, swept the floor. As I pushed the cart toward the men's restroom, a small voice behind me said, "Miss?" I turned. A little boy stood there, maybe 6, with messy blonde hair and a blue t-shirt with a lightning bolt on it. "Hey, buddy," I said. "Bathroom's closed for cleaning. Can you wait a couple minutes?" He fidgeted, crossing his legs. "Please?" "I really gotta go," I sighed. "All right, give me 2 minutes. I'll be quick, okay?" He nodded. I pushed open the men's door and went in, humming to myself. I'd only been inside a minute when I heard it, a faint scraping sound. "Hello," I called out. "This restroom's closed." No answer. I frowned, crouched, and looked under the stalls. No feet, then a slow creak from the far stall. My pulse quickened. I grabbed the mop handle and nudged the door open. That's when I saw him, the clown. Sitting on the closed toilet seat, knees pulled up, hands clasped around them like a child hiding during hide and seek. His head was tilted down. Then he slowly looked up. His painted grin cracked wider as his breathing turned heavy, raspy and uneven. "What the hell?" I whispered. You can't be in here." He didn't answer. He just stared, his eyes wide behind the smeared makeup. Then his shoulders began to shake. Not laughing, not crying, just shaking. "Sir, I'm serious," I said, my voice trembling. "You need to leave right now." He rose to his feet, moving with those same jerky, puppet-like steps, and began to whistle. A soft, broken tune, slow, like a lullaby missing notes. I froze. Then he brushed past me, close enough for me to smell something chemical beneath the grease paint, and walked out the door. I stood there shaking, my heart pounding in my ears. Back at the counter, Marissa took one look at me and frowned. "What happened to you?" "You look like you saw a ghost," I swallowed hard. "That damn clown was in the men's room, just sitting there." He wouldn't say anything. Her eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "Yeah, he's not right in the head, Marissa. Just stay away from him." She nodded slowly. "Okay." I tried to shake it off, but something inside me knew it wasn't over. 15 minutes later, I went out to the back lot to breathe. The summer air was thick and humid. I stared at the dumpster, trying to focus on anything but that clown's face. Then the door burst open. Marissa's voice cracked. "Nora! Did you see a kid go outside? Or the clown?" "What?" "Number. Why?" "One of the kids is missing," she said, panic rising in her voice. "His mom can't find him." Blonde hair, blue shirt. My stomach dropped. "That's the boy who asked to use the bathroom." Marissa covered her mouth. "Oh my God. His mom said she didn't hire the clown. She thought we did. I didn't even think. Call the police." Now inside was chaos. Parents shouting, kids crying, Rick yelling into his phone. I ran to the restroom, my hands shaking so bad I could barely grab the handle. When I pushed it open, my breath caught in my throat. The clown was crouched in the corner, holding the little boy. The kid's face was red, eyes wet with tears. The clown was shoving a string of multicolored handkerchiefs into the boy's mouth. "Let him go," I screamed. The clown's head snapped toward me. His grin stretched wider as he dropped the child. The boy bolted past me, sobbing. Then the clown straightened, slowly, towering over me. He lunged. We hit the sinks hard. I felt his hand grab my wrist, cold and strong. He reeked of sweat and burned plastic. From his pocket, he pulled something, a dead rat. Its tail dangled as he held it near my face, whispering, "Hungry?" I gagged, twisting my arm. "Get off me!" He laughed, a wet, broken laugh that cracked like static. I fumbled for my keychain and sprayed him in the face with pepper spray. He screamed, clawing at his eyes. The wig fell off, revealing half his scalp scarred and melted like wax. He staggered back, gasping. "Peekaboo!" he rasped. I bolted. Marissa and two parents grabbed the door and helped me hold it shut as he slammed against it from the other side, still whistling that same lullaby. Then silence. Moments later, sirens wailed outside. When the police dragged him out, he was still laughing through tears, wrists bleeding from the cuffs. Without the wig, his face looked like it had been burned years ago. One eye milky white, the other bright blue. He turned his head as they shoved him into the cruiser, meeting my gaze through the glass. His lips moved soundlessly, but I could still hear that tune in my head. The officer who took my statement said quietly, "That guy's been on our radar. Used to do kids' parties around Iowa City until he snapped. Guess he found a new place to blend in." I nodded numbly. "Is the kid okay?" "He's shaken, but you saved him." I didn't feel like I saved anyone. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. They let us go around noon. I sat in my car in the parking lot, staring at my reflection in the windshield. Behind me, the bright Rocco Bell sign flickered like nothing had happened. When I finally drove home, the sound of that faint whistled tune wouldn't leave my head. Even now, years later, whenever I pass a Rocco Bell sign, my stomach knots. I still picture him, standing in the corner, half-painted smile, scarred face, eyes that never blinked. And sometimes when the night air is quiet and the wind whistles through the cracks of my window, I swear I can still hear him. That same broken lullaby. Story 2. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to look over my shoulder every time I step into a fast food place. But that's what happens when one night changes everything you thought you knew about people, about love, about trust, about safety. My name's Evan Miller, and this happened about 4 years ago, in the summer of 2021, in a small town called Brookfield, just outside of Columbus, Ohio. Back then, my life was pretty plain. I worked full-time at a distribution warehouse for auto parts. 10-hour shifts, 6 days a week. The pay was average, but it kept my bills paid and my beer cold. I lived alone in a small one-bedroom apartment over a laundromat. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Most mornings before my shift, I'd grab coffee from this small shop across the street called Corner Cup. That's where I met Mara. She was a barista, early 20s, dark hair, brown eyes that always looked tired but warm at the same time. The first morning I met her, I ordered a black coffee like I always did. She smiled and said, "No sugar? You look like a guy who could use a little sweetness in his life." I remember laughing awkwardly and muttering, "Guess I'm used to bitter things." That was the start. At first it was just small talk, weather, music, what podcasts we liked. But one morning she wrote her number on my cup. I texted her later that night and we talked until 3 in the morning. Within a month we were dating. Within 2, she was spending most nights at my place. And honestly, for a while, it was good, real good. She was funny, spontaneous, affectionate. She'd leave notes in my lunchbox, cook dinner for me after work, sit in the passenger seat singing along to old rock songs on our weekend drives. It felt like the kind of love that makes you forget you were ever lonely. But things started shifting, subtly at first. It started with questions. "Who's Jenna?" she asked once, holding my phone. "My coworker." "Why?" "She called you at 10 p.m. It was about a shipment." "She's the night supervisor." Mara didn't say anything for a while. Just stared, expressionless, before muttering, "Okay." After that, it was little things. She'd pop up at my workplace unannounced. Once she waited outside my apartment for hours because I didn't answer a call while I was in the shower. If a cashier smiled at me, she'd go silent the rest of the day. When I tried to talk to her about it, she'd tear up. "I'm sorry," she'd whisper. "I just get scared of losing you." Everyone leaves me eventually, and I fell for it every time. But one night, about 5 months in, it went too far. We were arguing, again, because I went out for beers with my friend Tyler and forgot to text her. She showed up at my apartment around midnight, pounding on the door. When I opened it, she slapped me across the face. "Don't ignore me like that again," she hissed. I lost it. "You don't own me, Mara. You can't control my life." Her expression changed instantly, flat, cold. Then she said something I'll never forget. "You'll regret saying that, Evan. and she walked out. I thought that was it. I blocked her number, deleted her from social media, told Tyler what happened, and tried to move on. For a few weeks, things went quiet. I started feeling normal again, until the texts started. Dozens of them from random numbers. "You can't hide from me. You said forever. I still see you, Evan." I changed my number. I even moved apartments. I thought maybe she'd finally get tired of the chase. Then came the night at Rocco Bell. It was a Friday in late July. Hot, sticky, the kind of heat that makes the asphalt shimmer. Tyler called me after work. "Dude, you're coming out tonight." "I'm not letting you rot alone again," I groaned. "Man, I'm tired. Just worked a double." "No excuses," he said. "We'll grab food first, then hit that new bar downtown." Meet me at the Rocco Bell on Main Rocco Bell was this rundown Mexican fast food joint that looked like it hadn't been updated since the early 2000s. Flickering neon sign, cracked parking lot, AC that barely worked. I wasn't in the mood, but I went anyway. When I pulled up, the sky was gray and heavy with rain. I spotted Tyler's car, parked beside the drive-through speaker. Inside, the place was busy. College kids, construction guys, families trying to get dinner before the storm hit. The smell of fried tortillas and seasoned beef filled the air. I ordered a burrito combo and sat across from Tyler. He was halfway through a taco when he said, "You look like hell, man." "Thanks," I said, forcing a smile. "Still thinking about her?" "Not really," I lied. Before he could respond, I heard a voice from behind the counter. "Order 38, burrito combo, extra hot sauce." That was mine. I walked up to grab it and froze. Standing behind the counter, wearing a red Rocco Bell visor and a name tag that said Lena, was Mara. Her hair was shorter now, cut just above her shoulders, and she was wearing dark lipstick. But those eyes, I knew them instantly. "Hey, stranger," she said softly. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My throat went dry. "What the hell are you doing here?" She tilted her head slightly. "It's Lena now," she said with a faint smile. "Can I take your order?" "You already did." "Right," she said, sliding the tray toward me. "Then, enjoy it." Her tone was calm, almost polite, but something about the way she looked at me made my stomach twist. I grabbed the tray and walked back to the booth, trying not to make eye contact. Tyler noticed right away. "What's wrong?" "My ex," I muttered. "She's here." "She's working the counter." He blinked. "You're kidding." "No, don't look. Just act normal." He leaned closer. "You sure that's her?" "I'd know those eyes anywhere." We sat in uneasy silence for a minute. I unwrapped my burrito and took a bite. It tasted weird, metallic. I shrugged it off. Probably just too much sauce. Then I took another bite, and something sharp scraped my mouth. I froze. Tyler frowned. "You good?" I reached inside my mouth and felt something cold and hard. When I pulled my fingers out, there was blood on them, and in my hand was a small, thin razor blade, slick with red. I stared at it, horrified. "Oh my God!" Tyler's eyes went wide. "Dude, spit it out. You're bleeding." Blood dripped onto my shirt. My gums were stinging, my heart pounding so hard I could barely hear anything. The whole restaurant fell silent. Mara, no, Lena, stood behind the counter, her expression unreadable. Then she started laughing, a low, broken laugh that grew louder until everyone was staring. "You deserve it," she screamed suddenly, pointing right at me. "You said you loved me. You lied." People started backing away. The manager rushed out, yelling, "Ma'am, step back from the counter. What's going on here?" But Mara didn't stop. She kept shouting, tears streaming down her face, her voice breaking. "He broke me." I just wanted him to feel it too. My vision blurred. I could taste blood and panic. Tyler grabbed me by the shoulders. "Stay with me, man. You're okay. Somebody called 911. The last thing I remember before passing out was the sound of her laughter echoing through the restaurant, twisted and hollow. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. My mouth was full of gauze. My throat burned every time I swallowed. A doctor told me I was lucky. The blade had missed an artery by less than an inch. My sister Hannah was sitting beside my bed, eyes red from crying. "She's in custody," she said quietly. "They found out she put it in your burrito on purpose. She told them you ruined her life. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. Hannah hesitated before adding, they found something else too. The sauce on the burrito tested positive for rat poison. She wasn't just trying to scare you. I stared at the ceiling, numb. She always said love should hurt, I whispered. Hannah squeezed my hand. That's not love, Evan. That's madness. It's been years now. I moved to a different city, changed jobs, changed my number again. But sometimes when I drive by a Taco Bell or smell that same mix of grease and spice in the air, I get that metallic taste in my mouth all over again. And sometimes when I dream, I see her, standing behind a counter, smiling that cold, perfect smile. Enjoy it, she says. And I always wake up before I take another bite. Story 3, I never thought a part-time job at a fast food place would change my life forever. Back then, I was just trying to get by, like most people my age. My name's Aaron Matthews, and in the spring of 2019, I was 21, living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, juggling community college classes and bills I could barely keep up with. My dad had passed away 2 years earlier after a long fight with cancer, and my mom worked nights at a nursing home. Money was always tight, and I didn't want to depend on her anymore. That's how I ended up working nights at Rico Bell, a small taco joint off Route 66, the kind that stayed open until 1 a.m. and always smelled like burnt oil and refried beans. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and the manager, Tyler, didn't ask too many questions. The first time I walked in for my interview, I remember thinking how weirdly quiet it was. Just the hum of the fryers, the flicker of the menu lights, and the faint sound of someone mopping in the back. Tyler was maybe 30, a little too cheerful, with his Rico Bell polo tucked neatly into jeans that looked like they hadn't seen a washer in a week. You'll be fine here, he told me, smiling wide. We're like family. Night shifts slow most of the time. Just the drunks, the truckers, and the weird ones. He wasn't lying about that last part. By March, I'd gotten used to the rhythm. Come in at 6, prep food, wipe counters, deal with customers who slurred their orders through the drive-through speaker. My co-workers became like a second family. Maya, the sarcastic cashier who'd been there since high school. Chris, the fry cook who always had earbuds in. And Jordan, the delivery guy who flirted with anything that moved. I didn't mind the work. It kept my mind off things, especially off Evan. We dated for nearly a year and the breakup wasn't pretty. He had this controlling side that started showing after a few months. He'd get angry if I didn't answer his texts right away, or if I hung out with friends without him. One night he showed up drunk outside my apartment, pounding on the door, shouting my name. I called the cops that night and filed a restraining order the next morning. I thought that was the end of it. But trauma has a funny way of sneaking back into your life when you least expect it. A week before my birthday, our group chat blew up. It was Maya's idea first. Let's do something for your birthday, Aaron. You're always working. We'll go somewhere low-key. Low-key? I typed back. You mean like dinner at work? Exactly, she replied with a laughing emoji. Rico Bell dinner party. Employee discount. Who could resist? It was dumb, but I said yes. I didn't want a big crowd anyway. Just me, Maya, her boyfriend Jake, and maybe Chris if he didn't bail last minute. That Saturday night, I clocked in at 6 like always. The air outside was humid, and the neon sign buzzed like a dying bug. The shift was slow, just a few families and one guy ordering 6 burritos for himself. Around 8:30, Maya and Jake showed up, sitting in one of the corner booths with their food. I laughed seeing them there like normal customers. Happy early birthday, Maya said, holding up a small cup of queso like a toast. Wow, I said, smirking. Nothing says love like processed cheese. She rolled her eyes. You're welcome. It was simple, stupid fun. We talked about everything. Classes, relationships, life. I remember laughing so hard that my stomach hurt. For the first time in a while, I felt okay, until I saw him. At first, I thought I was seeing things. The glare from the glass made it hard to be sure, but standing outside near the drive-through window was a man in a gray hoodie, his head tilted slightly down. He wasn't ordering, just standing there. I froze mid-laugh. Aaron, Maya asked, frowning. You good? Yeah, I said quickly. Thought I saw someone I knew. Who? I didn't answer, because deep down I already knew. The way he stood, the slight twitch of his jaw, it was Evan. Number. It couldn't be. He didn't live in Tulsa anymore. His restraining order kept him miles away. But when the man lifted his head and smiled, I knew. It was him. I turned away, my stomach dropping. I need to check something in the back. Tyler was by the register, counting the till. Everything okay? I think my ex is outside. His face tightened. You sure? Pretty sure. He nodded slowly. Go in the office. Lock the door. I'll handle it. I did as he said, sitting in the small, stuffy office with the flickering light overhead. I tried to steady my breathing, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. After a few minutes, I peeked through the blinds. The man was gone. When I came back out, Tyler said, "Nobody's out there now. Probably some random guy." You sure it was him? I wanted to believe it wasn't, so I nodded. Yeah, maybe I'm just being paranoid. But the unease never left. The next night, my shift started at 9 p.m. It was quiet again. Too quiet. Maya wasn't there. She'd taken the night off. It was just me, Tyler, and Chris in the back. I was manning the counter when a new employee came in. A guy maybe mid-20s, short brown hair, faint scar on his chin. Tyler introduced him. Aaron, this is Ryan. He's starting tonight. Just part-time. Ryan gave a small nod. Hey. Something about his voice made my chest tighten. Familiar, but not enough to place. He kept to himself for most of the night, washing trays, refilling sauces, doing the new guy stuff. But every now and then, I caught him looking at me. Not in a flirty way, more like he was studying me. During break, I walked out back for some air. The night was still, the parking lot empty. I lit a cigarette and tried to calm down. That's when I heard it, a voice behind me. You shouldn't smoke. You used to hate it. I froze. My blood ran cold. I turned around slowly. Ryan wasn't there anymore. It was Evan. The same scar, same eyes, same faint smirk. My breath hitched. What the hell are you doing here? He stepped closer, his face half hidden under the light. I just wanted to see you. Talk. You wouldn't answer my calls. You're not supposed to be near me. He laughed, low and bitter. Yeah, well, you can't run forever, Aaron. I backed away, heart pounding. You need to leave. Now he reached out like he wanted to touch my face. I slapped his hand away and bolted inside, yelling for Tyler. But when we ran outside, he was gone. Tyler called the cops, filed a report, and told me to take the rest of the night off. The officers searched around but didn't find anyone. One of them asked if I was sure it was him, and I said yes. The same scar, the same eyes. They told me they'd keep an eye out, but deep down, I knew it wouldn't matter. He'd find another way. The next few nights, everything seemed normal again. Or maybe I just forced myself to believe it. I couldn't afford to quit. I needed the money. Then came Friday night. The shift was busy. People from the nearby bar came in drunk, loud, demanding. By 11:30, it was finally quiet. Tyler was doing inventory, Chris was cleaning the fryers, and I was bagging the last few orders. That's when a delivery came in. 2 large bags labeled "Special Order." No one had placed it, but the label said it was from corporate, so I put them in the back cooler. A few minutes later, I noticed one of the paper bags on the counter had my name written on it in black marker. Aaron, Veggie Supreme. I frowned. Tyler, did you make this? He looked up. No. What is it? Someone made me food, I guess. He shrugged. Maybe Chris did. Chris shook his head from the fryer. Not me. The weird part? The burrito inside was exactly how I used to order it, with extra lime, no cheese, and pico on top. Just how Evan used to make it when he'd cook for me. I stared at it for a moment, my stomach twisting. My first instinct was to throw it away, but curiosity and hunger won. I took a small bite. The taste was wrong, metallic. I gagged and spit it out. God, that's disgusting. Tyler frowned. Let me see that. He tore it open, then froze. What the hell? Inside, buried under shredded lettuce, was something pale and fleshy. A finger, a human finger. I screamed. Chris dropped the fryer basket, oil splashing onto the floor. Tyler stumbled backward, his face going white. Then from the kitchen door, a voice echoed, "Happy birthday, Aaron." Evan stepped into the light, wearing a Rico Bell uniform. His left hand was bleeding, wrapped in a red-stained rag. "You didn't want to talk to me," he said softly, "so I made you something special." He lifted the rag, revealing that his ring finger was missing. My body went numb. "You can't block me out forever," he said. "Now you'll always have a part of me." Tyler lunged at him, shouting for Chris to call 911. Evan screamed, swinging a knife from his apron. The kitchen erupted into chaos. Trays crashing, people shouting. I hid behind the counter, shaking so hard I could barely breathe. All I could hear was the sound of sirens growing closer and Tyler yelling, "Drop it! Drop it!" By the time the police burst in, Evan was on the floor, bleeding and laughing through his tears. "She'll never forget me," he whispered. I spent the next few hours in the hospital, wrapped in a blanket, shaking uncontrollably. The officers said he'd planned it for weeks, got hired at another Rico Bell in the next county, stole a uniform and snuck in pretending to be a new hire. He'd brought that special order himself. The detective said I was lucky. Lucky. It's been 3 years since that night, and I still can't eat fast food. The smell of tortillas makes me sick. People joke about me being too healthy, but they don't know. They don't know what it's like to take a bite of food and taste the memory of a man who tried to make himself part of you forever. Every time I drive past a Rico Bell, I see his face reflected in the glass. The same smile, the same eyes. And I swear, sometimes I can still taste the blood. Story 4. I never thought working at a Rico Bell could change the way I see people forever. Everyone jokes that fast food is easy. Flip some tacos, clean a fryer, clock out. But they never talk about the late-night shifts. The kind where the streets are empty, the hum of the soda machine is the only sound you hear, and the people who come through the door don't seem quite right. Back then, I was 25 and trying to keep my life from falling apart. My name's Ethan Cole, and I just moved to Pine Hollow, a small town in southern Kentucky. After my dad passed away from a heart attack, I left my job in Nashville to help my mom. Pine Hollow was quiet, a little too quiet for my taste, but rent was cheap and my cousin Matt helped me get a job at the local Rico Bell off Highway 27. It wasn't exactly a dream job, but I figured it would do until I got back on my feet. I worked the closing shift, 6 p.m. to 1 a.m., 5 nights a week. Most nights were uneventful. Some college kids, a few truckers, the occasional drunk who'd slur their order and pass out in the parking lot. Nothing out of the ordinary. But that Wednesday night in March, that one I'll never forget. The air outside had that sticky feel to it, the kind that tells you spring's coming early. The store lights cast a dull yellow glow across the empty lot. Inside, the smell of fryer oil and seasoned beef hung heavy. I was wiping down the counter while Matt mopped near the front. He was humming off key like always. "Man," I said, glancing at the clock, "it's only 9:40. Feels like midnight." He chuckled. "That's because nobody's been in for half an hour." "Wednesday nights are cursed," I grinned. "Guess that's good for us." "Yeah, until the drunks start rolling through after 10. He wasn't wrong. I leaned against the counter, scrolling through my phone, half zoned out. Then the door chimed. We both looked up. A man stepped in. At first glance, nothing about him screamed danger. He wore a gray zip-up hoodie, dark jeans, and an old baseball cap that shadowed his face. But there was something off. His posture was stiff, his movements slow, deliberate. And when he looked up at me, his eyes, I don't even know how to describe it. They looked tired, hollow. "Evening, sir," I said automatically, slipping into customer service mode. "What can I get for you tonight?" He stood there a moment too long before answering. "Combo number 4, he said flatly. "Extra hot sauce." "Sure thing," I replied. "That'll be $7.52. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a wad of crumpled bills and handed me $8. His hand brushed mine, cold as ice. "Keep the change," he murmured, eyes fixed on the counter. I went to the kitchen to start his order myself since the cook had gone home early. As the grill sizzled, I glanced up. The man was sitting in the corner booth, staring straight ahead, not at the menu, not at his phone, just blank, like he was waiting for something. Matt leaned over the counter and whispered, "That guy's giving me the creeps." "Yeah," I muttered, Just don't stare. Probably just tired. When the food was ready, I took it out to him. Here you go, sir. Fresh off the grill, he didn't answer. Just gave a faint nod, eyes still locked on nothing. I went back behind the counter trying to shake it off. The minutes ticked by. The hum of the freezer filled the silence. Then, thud. I looked up. The man's fist was pressed against the table. His shoulders were shaking. You okay there, sir? Matt called out nervously. The man stood up slowly, his face twisted with disgust. What the hell is this? He said. I blinked. Excuse me? This, he barked, holding up a taco like it was contaminated. It smells rotten. Sir, I just cooked that myself, I said carefully. It's fresh. He glared at me. You think I can't tell when something's wrong? You trying to poison me? I froze. Matt mumbled, Oh, come on, dude. Sir, I promise you. He slammed the taco down, sauce splattering across the table. Eat it, he snapped. What? Eat it, he said again, his voice trembling. If it's so good, you eat it. I didn't know what else to do. The last thing I wanted was to escalate things. So I picked up one of the tacos and took a bite. See? I said, forcing a nervous smile. It's fine. Totally normal for a moment, he just stared at me. Then his lips curled into something between a sneer and a grin. You like eating garbage? He said softly. You think it's funny feeding people trash? Sir, please calm down. But he wasn't listening. He flipped the table, food and drink crashing to the floor. I stumbled back as he charged toward me. You think you can feed me filth? He shouted, grabbing my shirt. His grip was strong. I could smell sweat and something else, like rust or blood. Hey, back off, Matt yelled, running over with the mop still in his hand. The man shoved me against the counter. I hit hard, the breath knocked out of me. Matt swung the mop, hitting him across the back. It didn't even faze him. The man turned and punched Matt square in the face. Blood sprayed across the tile. Stop, I shouted, reaching for the phone. But before I could dial, the man grabbed the metal napkin holder and hurled it at me. It missed by inches, shattering against the wall. We ran. We sprinted through the kitchen and slammed the heavy steel door behind us. I could hear him pounding on it, yelling, You can't hide from me. You know what you did. Matt was bleeding badly, his breathing ragged. Call 911 now. I tried, but the signal on our store phone kept cutting out. It had been glitching for weeks. Then silence. I thought maybe he'd left. But the next sound made my blood freeze. Creak. He was prying the back door open. Matt whispered, Oh God, he's coming around. I grabbed the only thing nearby, a broom handle. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold it. The back door burst open. He stepped in, holding a baseball bat, one of the ones customers had left behind months ago. His face was red, sweaty, eyes wide like he was burning up inside. You think you can poison people? He spat. You think you can hide it? I raised the broom. Sir, please, put it down. We didn't do anything, he swung. The impact sent the broom flying out of my hands. I felt a sharp pain shoot through my arm. Matt tried to tackle him, but the man turned and swung the bat, catching him on the shoulder. The sound it made, I'll never forget it. Stop, I screamed, lunging forward. We crashed into the prep table. He was stronger than he looked. He pinned me down, face inches from mine, eyes bloodshot. You don't even know what's in your food, he hissed. You're just serving death. Then, sirens. The flashing red and blue lights filled the store. Police! Drop the weapon, someone shouted. The man froze, eyes darting toward the sound. Then, like an animal cornered, he bolted through the open door, vanishing into the night. When the officers stormed in, they found Matt unconscious and me on the floor, gasping for breath. The paramedics said I had a fractured rib and mild concussion. Matt's arm was broken, but he survived. They never caught the man. The cameras had been smashed. All the police had was a blurry frame of him walking in, his face blank, unrecognizable. For weeks, I couldn't sleep. Every time the door chimed in my dreams, I woke up sweating. They offered to transfer me to another store, but I quit. Couldn't step foot in another Rocco Bell again. A month later, I heard rumors from a guy at the police station that there'd been similar incidents in 2 other towns. Men claiming they'd been poisoned by fast food workers. Always around the same time of night, always disappearing before anyone could stop them. I don't know if it was the same man. I don't even know if he was human that night. But sometimes when I drive past that stretch of Highway 27, I still see that neon sign flickering. Raco Bell, open late. And I swear, if you look long enough, you can see a figure sitting in that corner booth, just staring out the window, watching, waiting, because maybe he's still out there, and maybe he's still hungry. Story 5, I never thought a craving for cheap fast food could nearly cost me and my niece our lives. It sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud, like the kind of thing you'd read in some exaggerated post online. Man attacked at taco place over wrong order. But this really happened, and every time I drive past that damn purple and orange sign, I feel my stomach twist until I have to pull over and breathe. It was the winter of 2021, right after Christmas. My name's Eric Coleman, and I was working double shifts at a packaging warehouse on the outskirts of Bentonville, Arkansas. The pay was garbage, but I needed it. I'd fallen behind on rent after my divorce and was trying to keep things together for my 17-year-old niece, Madison, who was staying with me for a few weeks while my sister was out of state taking care of our sick mom. Madison had always been this bright, talkative kid, always singing under her breath, always hungry. That night, she'd been scrolling on her phone while I was half passed out on the couch, my work boots still on. The heater in my duplex was broken, and the air inside had that stale winter chill that made it hard to sleep. "Uncle Eric," she said from the recliner, "you want to get something to eat?" "I'm starving," I groaned. "Madison, it's past 11. Please eat, I'll even go inside. I just want something warm. Fries, maybe tacos or something." I rubbed my eyes. "You got money?" She smirked. "You've got money." I laughed despite how tired I was. "Yeah, and it's disappearing fast." But she was right. I hadn't eaten since lunch, and my stomach had been growling for hours. "All right," I said, sitting up. "Throw on a hoodie. We'll hit the drive-thru and come right back." We got in my old 2007 Honda Accord, which rattled like an old lawnmower whenever I turned the key. The air smelled faintly of oil and fast food wrappers from a week ago. Madison plugged in her phone and started playing soft music as we pulled out of the neighborhood. The streets were nearly empty, slick from an earlier drizzle. Streetlights flickered in long yellow streaks across the wet asphalt. "Which place you want?" I asked. "There's a Raco Bell on Maple Avenue," she said. "Like 5 minutes away." I groaned. "That one's sketchy." "It's next to that old pawn shop that burned down last year." She laughed. "It's fine. It's food." The Raco Bell sat tucked behind a half-abandoned strip mall, its neon lights buzzing faintly against the dark sky. It was 11:43 p.m., closing in on midnight. Only a few cars were in the drive-thru lane, one dented silver pickup by the dumpster. I pulled into line. Madison fiddled with the radio while I rubbed my temples. The workday had felt endless. 12 hours of packing boxes, lifting pallets, signing paperwork. My back ached. My hands smelled of cardboard and dust. When our turn finally came, I rolled down the window. The intercom crackled. "Welcome to Raco Bell," came a woman's voice, flat, monotone. "What do you want?" "No, hi, how are you?" Or "good evening." Just that. I hesitated. Can I get 2 crunchy tacos, no hot sauce, 1 large fry, and 2 medium Cokes?" Static hum for a few seconds. Then the same voice said, "You mean with hot sauce?" "No, without," I replied. "Yeah, whatever. 12:49. Drive up." I blinked at the speaker. "Okay then," I muttered. Madison giggled from the passenger seat. "Maybe she's tired," she said. "You get cranky after double shifts too." "Yeah, but I don't sound like I'm ready to murder someone over tacos." We laughed a little, but the unease lingered. At the window, a young woman appeared. Mid-20s maybe. Long fake eyelashes, purple eyeliner smudged beneath tired eyes. Her name tag read, Brandy. She had her phone tucked between her shoulder and ear while taking my cash. Didn't say a single word. Just grabbed the bills, handed me the change, and slammed the window shut without looking up. Madison raised an eyebrow. "Wow. Customer service is alive and well," I muttered. We pulled to the side of the lot to check the food before driving off, a habit I'd developed after too many bad orders. Sure enough, both tacos were soaked in hot sauce, the fries were cold, and the medium Cokes were definitely smalls. You've got to be kidding me, I said, holding one up. Madison groaned. Seriously? Yeah, every single thing is wrong. It's fine, she said softly. Let's just go home. Please, I hesitated. My temper flared for a second. No, I'm not letting this slide. It's not even about the money. It's the principle, she sighed. Uncle Eric, I'll be polite. 2 minutes, tops, I stepped out into the cold. The air bit at my face. I walked back to the drive-through window and tapped gently. Brandy looked up, rolled her eyes, and slid it open an inch. What? She snapped. Hey, sorry to bother you, but my order's wrong. I asked for no hot sauce and the fries are cold. Also, the drinks are small. She stared at me blankly. We don't make mistakes. I blinked. I'm pretty sure you did this time. Look, all tacos come with sauce, she said flatly. It's policy. That's not true. I order without it all the time. Not here you don't, she said and smiled. This slow, smug curl of her lips that made my stomach tighten. Can I talk to your manager? I asked, forcing my voice calm. She leaned back and yelled into the kitchen. Hey, Derek! Guy out here thinks we owe him something. A tall man stepped up to the window. Broad shoulders, early 30s maybe. His name tag read, Derek, shift lead. His hat was backward, his apron stained. What's the problem? He asked, his tone flat but sharp. My order's wrong. Just want it corrected, no hot sauce, fresh fries, right drink sizes. He smiled tightly. We didn't mess it up. Maybe you ordered wrong. Behind me, I could see Madison sitting in the car, watching nervously. She mouthed, let's go. Look, man, I said, I'm not trying to start anything. Just want what I paid for. Then pay again, he said. I blinked. What? You heard me. Pay again or get lost. I stared at him. That's not how this works. That's how it works tonight. His eyes didn't move, didn't blink, just stared through me, unflinching. I felt a chill crawl up my neck. You know what? Forget it, I said finally. I'll take it up with corporate. He smirked. Yeah, you do that. Then he slammed the window shut. I turned to walk back to the car when I heard shouting from inside. Another customer at the counter, a man in a brown jacket, was yelling. You think this is funny? I've been waiting 15 minutes. The voice that shouted back sounded like Brandy's. Then wait longer. The customer slammed his hand on the counter. What the hell is wrong with you people? The others in the restaurant, 2 teens by a booth, a woman holding a soda, just sat there completely still, not even turning their heads. Something about it felt off, like everyone inside was stuck on mute. Madison cracked open her window. Uncle Eric, she whispered, can we please leave? Something's not right. But I was already walking toward the door. Just 2 minutes. I'll get a refund and we're done. The bell above the door jingled cheerfully as I stepped inside. The smell of grease and cleaner hit me instantly. Derek was behind the counter, arms crossed. Brandy stood beside him, texting on her phone like nothing had happened. Hey, I said carefully. Look, I'm not trying to cause a problem. I just want to return this and get my money back. Derek tilted his head. Didn't I tell you to leave? And I told you, I said, my voice shaking slightly. I'm not leaving without what I paid for. He grinned, this dead, hollow grin. Last warning, buddy. Call your manager, I said. I am the manager. The way he said it made the air in the room feel colder. Behind him, one of the cooks, a heavyset guy, chuckled. Ain't no customers after midnight, man. What's that supposed to mean? I asked. Derek leaned closer. Means you should have stayed in your car. Uncle Eric! Madison's voice cracked from the doorway. She'd run inside, pale and shaking. We have to go. They're not normal. Madison, it's fine. Then I felt it. A sudden blast of heat, scalding, instant. Boiling liquid splashed across my back. I screamed. My vision went white. The pain was indescribable, like my skin was being peeled away by fire. I turned gasping and saw Derek holding a metal jug, the kind used for hot water. Steam rose off the floor where it spilled. Brandy laughed, this high-pitched, manic cackle. You wanted it hot, right? I fell to my knees, clutching my back. Madison screamed, trying to pull me up, but some had splashed onto her arm. Blisters were already forming. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I yelled, my voice raw. The customers, or whatever they were, just watched. No one moved. No one spoke. Derek's shadow loomed over me. "You should have just left, man." I swung my arm, caught him in the jaw. He stumbled. Madison yanked me toward the door. We bolted. The cold air outside hit my burning skin like knives. I barely made it to the car before collapsing. Madison was sobbing, fumbling for her phone. "Help! Somebody help us!" she screamed. Inside the restaurant, Brandy stood at the window, holding her phone up, recording us. Derek was behind her, smiling. "Still want that refund?" he shouted. Madison's trembling fingers dialed 911. Her voice cracked as she begged for help. Within minutes, sirens filled the night. Red and blue lights splashed across the wet pavement. But when the police pulled in, the restaurant lights went dark. The doors locked. The place looked abandoned, like no one had been inside for hours. They found us on the ground, me half-conscious, Madison sobbing uncontrollably. I remember the burn of the cold air, the stench of grease, and the sound of my niece crying my name. At the hospital, doctors said I had second and third-degree burns across my shoulders and back. Madison's arm would scar, but she'd heal. The police went back the next morning, but the Rocco Bell was boarded up. Corporate records showed that the entire night shift had been terminated a week earlier. No one could explain who we'd actually seen. The footage from the security camera, the one facing the counter, was corrupted. Static, blank, and then flickering shapes that didn't look human at all. For months I couldn't sleep. The smell of burnt oil haunted me. Madison had nightmares, screaming in her sleep, convinced she could still hear that voice whispering, "You wanted it hot, right?" We filed a lawsuit, but it went nowhere. The company claimed rogue franchise management. The police quietly dropped the case. Now, 3 years later, the lot where that restaurant stood is empty. Overgrown weeds push through cracked pavement. But every few months, someone online swears they see the lights flicker on after midnight. They say you can still hear laughter from inside. I try not to think about it. But sometimes, driving past on my way home from work, I catch a faint whiff of fryer grease and burnt fabric, and my scars ache like they're remembering. I still see that smile, that dead, unblinking look through the drive-through window, and I still hear her voice every time I close my eyes. "You wanted it hot, right?" Story 6. I never thought a fast food job could change the way I saw people, or the way I saw myself. Back then, I was just trying to make it through another week. My name's Evan Mercer, and 5 years ago, I worked the night shift at a place called Rocco Bell, a knockoff taco joint off Highway 17 in Huntington, Indiana. It wasn't the kind of place people went for quality food. Most customers came in half-drunk after the bars closed, or desperate college kids looking for something greasy to soak up the exhaustion. I started working there after dropping out of community college. My mom had just passed away from a sudden heart attack, and my dad, well, he wasn't the same after that. He stopped talking much, barely looked at me. The house was silent most days, so I spent most of my time working. Double shifts, overnight shifts, anything that kept me out of my own head. There were only 3 of us on the late crew. Renee, the assistant manager who chain-smoked between every rush. Travis, a college kid who was always late, but somehow never got fired. And me, the guy who never said no when they needed a shift covered. That October night, I remember it was cold. The kind of biting Indiana cold that sneaks under your jacket and settles in your bones. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I wiped down the counter for what felt like the 100th time. The fryer hissed in the background, and the smell of burnt oil hung heavy in the air. "Evan," Renee called from the drive-through window, her voice raspy from years of cigarettes. "We got another one." "Dude sounds drunk," I groaned, grabbed a headset and stepped beside her. "Welcome to Rocco Bell. Go ahead with your order." The voice that came through wasn't the usual slurred request for burritos or tacos. It was low, calm, almost too calm. "You still open?" the man asked. "Yes, sir. Until 2 a.m. What can I get you?" He paused for a long moment. "You still serve the spicy beef wraps?" Yeah," I said. "You want a combo?" Another pause. Then quietly, "You work nights a lot, Evan?" I froze. My heart skipped a beat. "Sir, How do you know my name? Static filled the line for a few seconds. Then the voice said softly, "See you at the window." The headset went dead. I pulled it off, staring at the receiver. "Renee, did you?" But when I turned, she was already walking toward the office, muttering something about the system glitching again. The speaker crackled suddenly, making me jump. "I'm here." The headlights from a dark sedan lit up the drive-through lane. The windows were tinted pitch black. I couldn't see the driver. I hesitated, then walked to the window and slid it open. The cold air hit me instantly. "Hey man," I said, trying to sound normal. "That'll be $8.47. The man didn't hand me any money. He just looked up. His face was half lit by the dashboard glow, pale with deep-set eyes that didn't seem to blink. His voice was softer now. "You've been working here a long time, huh?" I tried to laugh it off. "Yeah, something like that." You, been here before?" He smiled. "Not yet." That's when I saw his hand. It was wrapped in what looked like a bandage, dark stains seeping through the fabric. He reached out slowly, holding a folded $10 bill. But his hand shook, not like he was nervous, but like he was straining to hold something back. I took the bill quickly, dropped it in the drawer, and handed him his change. "All right, here's your food. Have a good night." He didn't take the bag. "Evan," he said, eyes fixed on me, "you should really lock the side door when you close." Before I could respond, he drove off. No tires screeching, no loud engine, just that slow, deliberate movement disappearing into the dark. I stood there for a second, frozen. I didn't remember ever giving him my name. Maybe it was just someone from town playing a joke. Small towns had a way of doing that. "Creepy dude, huh?" Travis said, sneaking up behind me with a smirk. "Don't do that, man," I said, heart still racing. "What did he say?" "Nothing. Just weird small talk." By the time we closed, it was almost 2:30 a.m. Renee was counting the drawer in the back, and Travis was mopping the floor. I started locking up. Front door, freezer door, storage, then the side door. Only the side door was already unlocked. I frowned. "Hey, did either of you go out back?" "Nope," Travis said without looking up. "Renee?" She didn't answer. I peeked down the hallway toward the office. The door was cracked open, light spilling out. "Renee!" I called again, walking closer. Inside, the cash drawer sat open, bills half stacked. Her cigarette was still burning in the ashtray, but she wasn't there. "Renee?" I said again, louder this time. That's when I heard it, a faint thud from the freezer. I turned slowly toward the back of the store. The sound came again, like someone knocking softly. Travis must have heard it too because he looked up from the mop. "What the hell was that?" "Stay here," I said, grabbing the broom handle like it could protect me. I pushed open the freezer door and my breath hit the cold air instantly. It was empty, or it looked empty. Boxes stacked, frost-covered shelves. Then a voice whispered from behind the boxes. "Evan!" I dropped the broom. My pulse thundered in my ears. "Who's there?" A figure stepped out, the man from the car. His clothes were soaked, dark patches staining his jacket. His eyes were wide, pale, like he hadn't slept in days. "I told you," he said softly, "to lock the door." I stumbled back, hitting the shelf. "How the hell did you get in here?" He smiled faintly. "You left it open." "Look, man, whatever this is, just take what you want. We don't have much cash." He tilted his head. "It's not about money." Behind me, Travis yelled from the hall. "Evan! You okay, man?" Before I could respond, the man lunged. I slammed the door shut, trapping myself in the freezer. The glass fogged with my breath as I stumbled backward, my body shaking uncontrollably. Then, silence. I waited. Seconds dragged on. Finally, I crept toward the door, pressed my ear against it. Nothing. When I cracked it open, the hallway was dark. The light above the fryers flickered weakly. "Travis?" No answer. I stepped out slowly. My shoes crunched on something wet. I looked down. A trail of dark footprints led toward the dining area. I followed them, every step slower than the last. When I reached the counter, I saw Travis's mop lying in a pool of water and blood. "Travis!" I shouted, voice cracking. Something shifted near the soda machine. I turned where he was, and saw Renee. She was standing perfectly still, eyes wide open, her shirt soaked through. Her hand was pressed against her stomach, blood seeping through her fingers. "Renee!" I ran toward her. "Oh my God!" But when I reached her, she grabbed my wrist hard. Her voice came out in a trembling whisper. "He said, he's not done yet." Then she collapsed. I backed away, heart hammering, trying to process what I was seeing. I grabbed my phone, fumbling to call 911, but before I could hit dial, the power cut out. Everything went black. Only the emergency light over the door stayed on, casting the place in a pale red glow. Then I heard it again, that calm, steady voice. "Evan, you remember me now?" He stepped out from behind the counter. The light caught his face, the same one I'd seen through the drive-through window, but closer now. His skin looked wrong, almost gray. I shook my head, backing up. "I don't know you." "Yes, you do." He pointed toward the counter, where my reflection trembled in the freezer glass. "High school. You left me there." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" "Winter formal," he said softly. "You and your friends. You locked me in the maintenance closet and left. Remember? You thought I was joking when I said I couldn't breathe." I froze. Memories I'd buried years ago clawed their way back. A stupid prank gone too far. I remembered the boy's name now. Miles Henley, the quiet one who'd gone missing that night. They said he'd just left town. My throat tightened. "No, Miles, we didn't mean..." He smiled faintly, eyes glinting under the red light. "Doesn't matter anymore." He stepped closer. "You left me to die in the dark, Evan." I turned and ran, straight for the side door, but when I reached it, it wouldn't budge. My keys slipped from my hands as I heard his slow footsteps behind me. "I waited," he whispered. "I waited for someone to open the door." I yanked on the handle again, screaming for help. "Please!" The emergency alarm blared suddenly and flashing lights filled the room. I turned, and he was gone. When the police arrived minutes later, they found Renee barely conscious, Travis bleeding out behind the counter. I was sitting on the floor shaking, my hands covered in blood that wasn't mine. They searched the building top to bottom. No one else was there. But later, when they reviewed the security footage, they saw something I still can't explain. The door to the freezer opened by itself at 2:37 a.m. A shadow stepped out, but there was no body, no face, just movement. The cops said it must have been a glitch, the tape corrupted, but I know what I saw. They closed that Rocco Bell 2 weeks later, said it wasn't safe, bad wiring, health code violations. But every time I drive past that building, boarded up now, paint peeling, I swear I can still see the faint red glow from the emergency light. Inside, and sometimes when the wind hits just right, I hear a voice whispering through the cracks in the door. "You should have locked it, Evan." Story 7. I've worked more jobs than I care to remember, but nothing sticks with you quite like working in fast food. You see people at their rawest, hungry, tired, angry, sometimes drunk, sometimes lonely. You learn things about human nature they don't teach you in any psychology class. Back in 2019, I was 26, living in a small town called Riverton, a quiet, middle-of-nowhere kind of place in Oklahoma, where everyone knew each other by name or at least by face. After college didn't pan out the way I hoped, I ended up managing the night shift at a Taco Bell off Route 7, right next to a gas station and an old movie rental store that somehow was still open. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid rent. Nights were slow, the kind of slow that makes the hum of the fryer sound louder than it should. I worked with 3 people most nights. Amber, our cashier who never stopped talking, Luis, who ran the drive-thru and could flip a taco like it was art, and Morgan, a quiet kid from the community college who mopped floors and stacked sauces like his life depended on it. We were a strange little family, bonded by exhaustion and greasy food. That night, the night I still dream about, started out like any other. A Thursday in late November, cold, damp wind scraping through the parking lot hard enough to make the big Taco Bell sign creak. I remember the way my breath came out in white puffs as I leaned against the back wall by the dumpster, finishing my smoke break. The highway beyond shimmered with passing headlights. Inside, the store smelled like beans, fryer oil, and lemon cleaner. Familiar, safe almost. When I walked back in, Amber was at the register laughing about some TikTok video. Luis was yelling at the headset because some guy in the drive-thru couldn't decide between a crunch wrap or a quesarito. And Morgan was quietly humming as he mopped near the soda station. It was just before 10 p.m., our usual late-night rush. Truckers, drunk college kids, and people who looked like they'd been crying in their cars for hours. By 11:15, it was dead quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you notice the hum of the freezer. Then the door chimed. He walked in slow, deliberate. A tall man, maybe 6'3", broad shoulders, wearing a faded red jacket zipped halfway up. His jeans were muddy, his boots scuffed, and his face had that weathered look like he'd been sleeping in his truck for a while. He didn't take off his cap or glance around like most people do. He just stopped inside the door and looked at us. Not in a normal way, but like he was checking the room for something specific. Amber looked up and froze mid-sentence. Hey there. Welcome to Taco Bell. You can order whenever you're ready, she said, trying to sound chipper. The man didn't move, didn't say a word. He just stared at the glowing menu board for what felt like forever. Finally, in a deep voice, he said, "Beef tacos. Extra everything. No lettuce." Amber typed it in, her finger stiff. "Sure thing, sir." "You want a drink with that?" He didn't answer, just stared. I was wiping down the prep counter, but my eyes kept drifting toward him. Something about his stillness set my nerves off. Amber gave me a quick look, one that said, "Help me out here." So I walked over to the counter. "Hey there, sir. You good tonight?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. He slowly turned his head toward me, and for a second, I swear the fluorescent light flickered above him. His eyes were this pale, icy blue, the kind that almost looks see-through. "Yeah," he said after a pause, "just make it fast." "All right, no problem." I nodded, went back to the line, and quietly told Luis to handle that order first. Luis laughed under his breath. "What's up with that dude? Looks like he's been digging graves or something. Just don't say anything," I muttered. A few minutes later, the guy took a seat in the corner booth, the one under the broken light that flickered every few seconds. He didn't touch his phone, didn't look out the window, just sat there, hands flat on the table, eyes locked on the clock above the counter. When I brought his food out, I set the tray down carefully. 3 beef tacos, extra cheese, no lettuce, hot sauce on the side. "You all set?" He didn't say thanks, just stared down at the food, then up at me. "You the one who made this?" he asked. I hesitated. No, sir. My coworker did. But if there's anything wrong, you're the one in charge though, right?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah." He gave this slow, unsettling smile. "Figures." Something about the way he said it made the hair on my arm stand up. I backed away, pretending to check the fryer, but really just trying to keep him in my peripheral vision. About 5 minutes later, I heard him mutter something. Then louder, "This meat's cold." Amber looked over. "I'm sorry, sir?" "Did you say something?" He slammed his palm against the table so hard the sound cracked through the quiet. "This meat's cold!" Everyone froze. I walked over again, hands up. "All right, let's fix that for you. I'll get a fresh batch." He stood up. His chair screeched against the tile. "You think I'm some kind of idiot? You people don't care, huh? You just dump trash in a tortilla and call it food," Luis called from the back. "Hey man, relax, we'll fix it." The guy turned toward the sound, his jaw tight. "You shut your mouth." I stepped between them. "Sir, please. Let's calm down. I'll get your refund." He laughed, this sharp, ugly sound. "Refund? You think I want your dirty money?" That's when my gut told me something was really wrong. His voice wasn't just angry, it was unhinged, unstable. He grabbed the tray, food and all, and hurled it across the restaurant. Tacos hit the wall and slid down, sauce splattering across the tiles. Amber screamed. Morgan dropped his mop. I shouted, "Sir, that's enough!" He glared at me, face twisted. "Make me!" And before I could react, he lunged. He caught me by the shirt and shoved me back against the counter. My head hit the edge, stars exploding in my vision. Luis came running from the back and tried to pull him off, but the guy swung an elbow straight into Luis's nose. Blood sprayed across the fire station. Amber was crying, yelling into the phone. "He's attacking us! Please hurry!" The man turned on me again, his face red, veins popping at his neck. "You people think you can poison me?" he spat. "You're all in on it." I scrambled back toward the soda machine, slipping on spilled sauce. "Sir, stop! No one's—" He grabbed a metal tray and flung it at me. It hit the wall an inch from my head. Morgan was yelling from the back, "Cops are on their way!" That only made him worse. He vaulted the counter, grabbed a handful of sauce packets, and crushed them in his fist, splattering red across his jacket like blood. Then he smiled. It wasn't anger anymore. It was something else. Something gleeful. I tried to back up, but he reached over, grabbed me by the collar again. "You think you can hide behind your badge and name tag?" His breath was hot and sour. "You think you're safe?" Luis, half dazed and bleeding, picked up a broom handle and cracked it across the man's shoulder. The sound echoed. The man didn't even grunt. He just turned and punched Luis square in the chest. Luis fell backward against the fryer station and didn't move. That sight, my co-worker limp against the fryer, snapped something inside me. I grabbed the nearest thing, a thick glass bottle of Baja Blast syrup, and swung it. It shattered against his temple. He staggered back, touched the blood dripping from his head, then looked at me and grinned. "You shouldn't have done that," he whispered. He lunged again. We both went down hard, crashing into the prep table. Pans clattered to the floor. I kneed him in the stomach, kicked, anything to get free. He clawed at my throat, snarling. Then, the sound of a door bursting open. 2 security guards from the neighboring 24-hour gym ran in. One tackled him from behind, pinning his arms. The other helped hold him down as he thrashed, screaming incoherently. When the police arrived minutes later, they found him still fighting, still shouting, "You'll see me again! You'll all see me again!" His eyes were wild, unfocused. They dragged him out, kicking and screaming. And just like that, it was over. The place looked like a war zone. Food splattered on every wall, tables overturned, soda pooling under the booths. Luis was taken to the hospital with a broken nose. Amber couldn't stop shaking. Morgan sat in the corner, staring at the door like it might open again. A police officer pulled me aside after the reports were done. "You're lucky," he said quietly. "This guy's been floating around the county for weeks. Assaults, public freakouts, always disappears before we get there. No ID, no name, nothing. They never told us who he was, never came back to question us again. A month later, I quit. I couldn't handle the late shifts anymore. Every time that front door chimed, I'd feel my chest tighten. Even now, years later, when I drive down Route 7 and see that same Taco Bell glowing in the dark, I still slow down. Sometimes I see the new crew laughing behind the counter, cleaning up after the late rush, completely unaware. And every once in a while, just behind the dumpster near the edge of the lot, I swear I see someone standing there. Tall, broad shoulders, red jacket zipped halfway up, hands in his pockets, watching. Maybe it's just my mind replaying that night. Or maybe he's still out there, waiting for someone else to serve him the wrong taco. Story 8. I never thought working the night shift at a fast food joint could scar me for life. Not in the bad boss, low pay kind of way. In the kind of way that keeps you up at 3 a.m., staring at your ceiling, replaying a single night over and over until you start to wonder if maybe you didn't survive it at all. My name's Emily Cross, and for 3 years I worked at a Rayco Bell just outside Boonville, Missouri. It wasn't exactly my dream job, but after my boyfriend Evan died last winter, I didn't have many options left. I dropped out of community college to take care of him after his accident, a car crash that left him with nerve damage and a lot of bills. He was just starting to get better when everything went to hell. Evan was killed one night in what police called a robbery gone wrong. He'd gone out for food and never came home. They said he was found on a service road north of town, wallet missing, throat cut so deep the coroner said it was personal. The case went cold within a month, but I never believed it was random. I knew Evan. He was careful, always texting me before he left. That night, nothing. No text, no call, just silence and a body. For weeks, I barely ate. My parents begged me to move back home, but I couldn't leave our apartment. His jacket still hung by the door, and every time I passed it, it felt like he was still there somehow. I'd sit on the floor, scrolling through old photos until my eyes burned. Then I'd go to work at Rocco Bell, just to keep from thinking too much. Evan used to come by late after his construction shifts. We'd sit outside behind the store, talking and eating tacos from the employee meal bag. I still can't look at one without feeling sick. It was around 2 months after he died when Tyler, my shift manager, told me he hired someone new for nights. Guy's name's Brian Lowell, he said, flipping through the schedule. Came from another Rocco Bell upstate. Quiet guy, hard worker. You'll like him. I didn't think much of it until I met him. The first night Brian worked with me, it was a Wednesday. Rainy, weirdly quiet. He was tall, maybe early 30s, pale skin, messy brown hair that looked like he'd cut it himself. When I introduced myself, he smiled too long before answering. Emily? He said softly, like he was testing how my name felt in his mouth. Yeah, I've heard about you. I laughed awkwardly. Oh yeah? From who? He wiped his hands on a rag and nodded toward Tyler's office. Just around. You've been here a while, right? 3 years. That's rare, he said, still smiling. Most people don't last here. Something in the way he said it gave me chills. For the next few nights, he didn't talk much. Just worked quietly, mopping floors, refilling sauce bins, cleaning trays. But every time I looked up, I'd catch him watching me. Not in a creepy way at first, just observing. But soon it started to feel deliberate, like he was waiting for something. One Friday night, my friend Mara came in after closing to pick me up. We'd planned to grab coffee. Brian was finishing up the fry station when she walked in, and I swear his whole posture changed. Hey, he said to her, voice flat. Hi, she said, smiling politely. She's my friend, I explained, untying my apron. We're heading out after this. He nodded but didn't look away from her until we were out the door. In the car, Mara frowned. Your coworker gives me the creeps. Brian? Yeah, he's odd, but harmless, I think. She shook her head. You sure? He stared at me like I was interrupting something that stuck with me. The next few weeks went by in a blur. I tried to be normal. Work, sleep, pretend life wasn't falling apart. Then one night, I came home to find something taped to my door. A photo. It was one of Evan and me, the one I'd kept in a frame by my bed, but this one was torn. My half was missing. I called the police. They said it was probably a prank, but I knew it wasn't. The next day, Brian showed up to work wearing Evan's favorite color, a faded blue hoodie that looked eerily familiar. When I asked where he got it, he just smiled. Thrift store, he said. Guess we've got similar taste. My stomach dropped. Evan's hoodie had gone missing from our apartment weeks ago. I'd assumed I'd misplaced it. Now I wasn't so sure. The breaking point came a few nights later. It was slow, near midnight. Rain tapped against the windows, the neon open late sign flickering like it was dying. I was wiping down tables when Brian called out from the back. Hey, Em, you want a snack? I made something special, I hesitated. What kind of special? He laughed quietly. You'll see. He came out with a single taco on a tray. The shell looked darker than usual, and when I picked it up, it smelled off. Metallic. I added something new, he said softly. Thought you might like it. You always talk about how Evan loved tacos. I figured this would make you feel close to him again. I froze. What did you say? Brian wiped his hands and leaned on the counter. I know about him, Emily. I know what happened. You talk about him a lot online. I've seen the posts, the grief, the guilt. My voice trembled. How do you even know about that? He smiled faintly. I follow you. You post everything public. I wanted to help you heal. By making me food? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He nodded. Not just any food. Something meaningful. That's when he reached into his pocket and pulled out something folded. A photo. He slid it toward me. It was Evan, but not the Evan I remembered. His body, his neck. The photo was from the crime scene. I dropped it instantly, my heart pounding in my throat. Where did you get that? I took it, he said simply. That night, the air left my lungs. What do you mean you took it? I whispered. Brian's smile never changed. He came through the drive-thru, late, ordered your usual. I thought it was sweet until he mentioned you. Said he was bringing food home to his girl. You, he chuckled softly. And I realized he didn't deserve you. My vision blurred. You? You killed him? He nodded slowly. I freed you, Emily. He was holding you back. My knees nearly gave out. I backed away, trembling. You're lying. He tilted his head. You think I'd lie about something so important? He motioned to the taco. Go ahead. Take a bite. He's part of it now. You can be together again, I screamed. Threw the tray across the counter. Brian didn't even flinch. He just stood there, calm, eyes gleaming under the fluorescent light. I made it for you, he said again. I wanted to make you whole. Tyler came out from the back just in time to see me swing. I don't even remember deciding to move. I lunged over the counter, slamming into Brian with everything I had. The next few seconds were chaos. Glass shattering, someone yelling my name, blood on my hands that wasn't mine. When the cops arrived, Brian was unconscious on the floor, face swollen and bleeding. I was sitting on the curb outside, shaking so hard I couldn't even talk. They searched his car and his apartment that night. What they found made the front page of the local paper the next morning. Human remains found in freezer of fast food employee. DNA confirmed it was Evan. Pieces of him stored in plastic containers. The photo, the clothes, the special taco. Everything matched Brian's confession. He'd killed Evan, buried him, then dug him up weeks later because he missed me and wanted to give me closure. That was 8 months ago. Brian's in prison now, waiting for trial. I quit Rocco Bell the day after it happened, but the damage is done. Sometimes late at night, I wake up still tasting that metallic flavor in the back of my throat. Sometimes I dream about Brian's calm voice saying, "You can be together again." I don't go near any fast food place anymore. I don't eat tacos, I barely eat at all. People tell me grief fades with time. They're wrong. It doesn't fade. It changes shape. It grows teeth. And some nights, when I catch my reflection in the dark kitchen window, I swear I see Brian standing behind me, smiling, holding something that smells just like blood.